Good morning, everyone. Welcome. Today is April 10th. This is the Hawaii Housing Finance and Development Corporation Regular Board of Directors meeting. It is 9 a.m. First order of business is to see if we have a quorum. So Essa, could you please take roll?
Today in attendance, we have Chair Gary Mackler, Vice Chair Carol Ryman, and Directors Sean Sasaki, Jason Bradshaw, Don Mende, Scott Glenn, and Designee Mary Alice Evans.
So we have 7 present. We established a quorum. We will take public testimony today on our discussion and decision-making items on the agenda. At this time, I'd like to ask Gordon Pang to come up and explain the rules for giving public testimony.
Thank you, Chair. Gordon Pang, CIO for HHFDC. Good morning to you, Chair, Vice Chair, and other board members. Prompted by a third-party disruption during last month's meeting, HHFDC staff has come up with a new set of instructions for the public to provide testimony at board meetings on board agenda items. From here on out, all remote testimony will now need permission to speak on screen by clicking on the raise hand icon. When it comes time for the chair to ask for those providing testimony, please raise your hand if attending in person. If you're attending remotely, please click on the raise hand icon of your screen. The chair will call upon each raised hand accordingly during the respective agenda items. Whether in person or remotely, when called upon to testify, please state your first and last name and provide the name of the organization you represent if you represent one. At the discretion of the chair, each testifier will have 3 minutes to speak per agenda item. At the 3-minute mark, I will yell time, after which you will have 15 seconds to conclude your testimony. Please keep in mind that this is an opportunity for you to share your thoughts with the board only. Neither the board nor the staff is required to answer any questions you may ask during the testimony. If you are wishing to submit written testimony, instructions for doing so are located on the first page of the agenda under the section titled Providing Submitting Testimony. Thank you for your cooperation.
Thank you, Gordon.
Appreciate it.
Item 2A of the agenda is to approve the regular Board of Directors meeting minutes of March 13th, 2025. Is there a motion to approve?
Second.
We have a second. Is there any discussion on the minutes? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Next agenda item is under section 3 of the agenda. This is item A. This is to approve resolution number 210, authorizing the issuance of Pulame multifamily tax exempt revenue bonds for the Hale Pilina project located in Kahului, Maui. PMK number 23-7-013-026. Is there a motion on the floor?
Yes.
We have a motion to approve in a second. Is there anyone in the public who would like to who is present or watching remotely who would like to give testimony on this agenda item? Anybody else? Oh, okay. If not, we'll turn it to staff to present. Good morning.
Good morning, Vice Chair. Good morning, Chair Mackler, Vice Chair Ryman, the members of the board. I'm Katie Zhao, Housing Specialist with the Finance Branch, reporting on the request to approve resolution number 210, which authorizes the issuance of the Pulame multifamily tax exempt revenue bond for the Hale Pilina project. First, I'd like to present to the board the project background. Awardee is Hale Pilina 1 LP, a single asset real estate holding company, specially established to develop, own, and operate the project. The developer is Catholic Charity Housing Development Corporation, CHDC. Project has approximately 142,389 square feet of residential and common area, and is located in Kahului on the island of Maui. The project is a new construction of 179 unit affordable rental housing facility and has an affordable commitment period of 66 years. The project targeted for families with household earning income between 30 to 60% of the area median income (AMI). It consists of 4 buildings, of which 2 are 3-story residential buildings and 2 are 4-story buildings on the podium, with tenant parking on the ground level. Product types include a mix of 1 and 2-bedroom units. Families living those units will have range, refrigerator, disposable, cable TV, and high-speed internet access. The project also provides amenities including a playground, lot, picnic area, computer with high-speed internet, laundry room, elevator, and community meeting room. The total updated development cost for this project are estimated at $114.6 million. This project was originally awarded in the 2024 funding round, where it received $58,808,173 in 10-year tax exempt fund issuance from the Hulame Multifamily Bond Program with resolution number 204. $4,222,207 in annual federal LIHTC over a 10-year period, and $4,222,207 in state LIHTC over 5 years. $39,570,217 loans from Rental Housing Revolving Fund, which are around $32 million interim amounts and $7 million permanent amounts. The project also received $10,666,000 from Maui County's Affordable Housing Fund as a grant with no repayment term. The current funding structures that submitted for board approval today, as listed under for action, does not exceed the originally approved amounts. Next, I'd like to provide the board with the project status updates. Awardee expects the MMF fund issuance amount to fund over 50% of the project's anticipated basis. This qualifies the project to receive the federal 4% funding along with the corresponding state LIHTC. HHFDC conducted a TEFRA hearing on July 26, 2024, from 9:30 to 9:47 a.m. Hawaii Standard Time. No members of public attended, and the HHFDC did not receive any response. The project has received the building permit. The commencement of construction is projected for 2025 Q2, with completion in 2027 Q2. The closing coordination process has commenced. The project satisfied all bond checklist requirements from HHFDC. The financial pre-closing and the closing are scheduled for April 28th and April 30th, respectively. The resolution number 210, which is subject to board approval today, satisfies the requirements to accomplish and complete the HMMF bond sale. It authorizes 1, the issuance, sale, and the delivery of HMMF bond in a principal amount not to exceed $58,808,173 for the purpose of making a mortgage loan to provide financing to the awardee to the project. 2, determines and prescribes certain other matters relating hereto. 3, approves and authorizes the related actions and the execution and the delivery of related documents and agreements. The final bond issuance is subject to 1, the availability of volume cap, and 2, approval of the Department of Budget and Finance under the governor. This project satisfies both requirements. One, as March 31st, 2025, the available authority under the HMMF bond program was $883,627,150. Second, on January 27th, 2025, HHFDC received the governor's preliminary approval to issue the relief bond. With that, staff recommends approval of the following. One, resolution number 210, which authorizes a tax exempt issuance of up to $58,808,173 from the HMMF bond program, subject to the provisions and conditions held herein. And two, authorize the executive director to undertake all tasks necessary to effectuate the purpose of this bond. And the representatives from the developers team, CCHDC, are present for any questions.
Thank you, Haley. Board members, do you have any questions for Haley or for? I see Denise Isiri Matsubara here representing the project. Want to come up and say?
Aloha, good morning, board members. Denise Isiri Matsubara, CCHDC Executive Director. So nice to see so many familiar faces. I just want to thank the corporation, thank the board for their support. This is our first family housing project. All the receptant seniors and Halepolina will be just a stone's throw away from Kahului. I do want to recognize Connie Yu Pampaloni. She is actually the backbone of this project, did all the work, working with the corporation. And so it's really thanks to Connie that we're at this point right now. For Director Ryman, I just wanted to let you know we're committed on this project, that the priority will go to the Lahaina wildfire victims for the first 2 years. So really want to help out. Happy to answer any questions. Just thank you so much. It's been an eye-opening experience being on this side. I have greater appreciation for what everybody goes through.
Yeah, not a question for me, but a comment. I just see that you have tremendous support from Maui County with financing they're bringing into the project. That's great to see
Huge.
that. Congratulations to you.
Thank you.
Anyone have any questions?
No, just glad to see something happening in that empty lot. It's been vacant forever and it's right in the heart of Kapolei. So it's a really great location.
Yeah, it's a great location.
Thank you. Well, at this time, all those in favor of the motion to approve signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Are there any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Thank you. Okay, next we have item 3B of the agenda, which is to approve borrower's request to convert 17 affordable units to market rate at the 803 Waimanu for sale condominium project located in Kaka'ako, Oahu, PMK number 1-1-049084. Is there a motion to approve? Second. Now we have a second. I'll ask at this time if there's anyone in the public who would like to give testimony on this agenda item. Yes. Or in the room? Oh, okay. Why don't we have you come up to give your testimony? You can introduce yourself.
Good morning, Chair Mackler, Vice Chair Ryan, members of the board. My name is Herbert Allen. I'm a resident at this condominium. Apologies for not having submitted my testimony and reference materials in time for inclusion in the board packet. I'm likely to run over 3 minutes, so I would like to request additional time if that's available, but if not, I can make it work. I would like the board to consider deferring the proposed action of converting affordable housing to market rate into a future time pending further research and exploration of all available options. From the September meeting where this last discussed, I would like to bring up that Director Salaveria stated for the record that the board has a fiduciary responsibility To ensure HHFDC resources are going to support the sale of affordable units, not market rate units. Director Bradshaw indicated that the DOE housing program could be looked into. And Director Salaveria indicated the higher affordability commitment was made because of the opposition the project faced, which he felt it should be held to. And from the staff report that was submitted for this board meeting, there is no indication that the DOE program was looked into. There is an item that says that the reluctance to purchase units without parking, despite the fact that every single converted HCDA unit had parking. Prospective buyers anticipating changes in family size may not want to be in the program. However, the only two-bedroom unit in the building was converted from HCDA to market. And a preference to wait and purchase market rate without restrictions. That sounds like someone is telling prospective buyers that they can just wait and it will become market rate. You know, in the HHFD could consider allowing sales to qualified persons and releasing them from the restrictions afterwards if that is the sole holdup for allowing them to be purchased. I would also like to note that MLS sales data indicates that 315 is an HHFD restricted unit with no parking and sold above asking on March 12th, 2025. But that unit was a resale not owned by the developer. According to the loan terms, the units must always be available for sale. It seems like, from my perspective, that there's been a minimal attempt to actually market or sell units, as indicated by MLS data. And the HHFDC units have already been raised to 140% area median income, which is approximately $128,000, which would need to be at the very upper echelons of government positions to make, including DOE teacher type positions. There's also no indication that other sort of options were pursued, like the HHFDC's DEP program. And if, for instance, if the parking was such a restriction on the sales, the DEP program includes.
How much longer do you have?
Maybe a minute.
Yeah, that's fine. Let's continue.
The city inspector positions was qualified for DEP, have parking at the nearby Civic Center parking garage within walking distance. Also from the staff report, the HHFDC provided affordable sales training, which kind of indicates that the brokerage agent since May 2023 had no training in how to market affordable sales. Of the 26 HCDA converted units, 4 of them went to the same owner who owns an additional 5th unit in the building. So that's a clear indication that these affordable units are being sold to investors rather than homeowner occupants. Approximately 12 of the units that have been converted from HCDA are being rented. And then finally, on the note of fiduciary responsibility, per HRS 514B condominium law, the developer control period terminates 2 years after the right to exercise the unit was last exercised. For the building being completed in 2021, that would be December 2023, yet the developer has retained control of the board up to this time. The developer controlled board also has a pending lawsuit against the Association of Unit Owners, but has failed to enter any sort of defense on behalf of the Association of Unit Owners. The maintenance fees have been flat despite widely reported rising costs, and the developer has not been making dues payments per their own admission. So on the point of fiduciary responsibility, why use this reasoning to allow the developer to practice none? Finally, I would like to note that the executive director reports indicate that the executive director has not met with the owner of the project to try to find resolution of these issues and has only reported meeting with staff members and at least one state legislature. Thank you for your time and allowing me to testify. Thank you. I have references which will be distributed to you later, which back up a lot of the data I'm looking at, including MLS data, which indicate that very few HHFDC units have actually been on MLS.
Just at this time, we'll have staff come up and present the for action.
Thank you, Chair, members of the board. My name is Albert Palmer. I'm the Development Section Chief here at HHFDC. The block 803 Wamanu is an affordable and market rate for sale condominium project located in Kaka'ako, consisting of 153 residential units. Project received a dwelling unit revolving fund, or DURF, interim loan for construction from HHFDC in the amount of $9.83 million. Of the project's 153 units, 117 or 76% are affordable, 77 under HHFDC's program, and 40 under HCDA's program. On July 14th, 2022, the board approved an increase of the maximum qualifying income limits for the unsold HHFDC restricted units to 140% of the area median income, or AMI, without increasing the AMI levels used to determine the sales prices. On September 12th, 2024, a for action was brought to the board requesting approval of a DURF budget of up to $500,000 for any expenses that HHFDC may incur for the project and conversion of 25 units to market rate. The board approved the DURF budget, but modified the for action to allow for the conversion of the 25 units to 140% AMI instead of market rate. Since the units were already authorized to be sold to buyers up to 140% AMI, the effect of that approval would have been to allow higher sales prices. Since the units were already available to buyers at lower prices and were not selling, their prices were not increased. Construction of the project was completed in December 2021, and the project is currently occupied other than the unsold units, of which there are currently 51. Since the September 12th, 2024 for action, 9 units have been sold with 2 more in escrow. Of these, 1 is an HHFDC affordable unit and the other 10 are market units. Despite the developer's efforts to facilitate closings for the affordable units, conversion rates remain low, with buyers indicating reluctance to purchase affordable units. By comparison, the project's broker has indicated a stronger interest in market units, as evidenced by the sales which have occurred since the September meeting. In consideration of the relative lack of interest in the affordable units, the developer is now requesting conversion of 17 affordable units to market rate. If such request is approved, 65% of the units would remain affordable. Converting 17 units to market rate is expected to have a high probability of providing sufficient revenue to pay off the senior loan in a timely manner, which would result in HHFDC ascending to the senior lien position. The development budget for the project was approximately $60 million. The current outstanding balance of the senior loan is approximately $6.4 million of principal, plus approximately $80,000 of accrued interest at 10% per year. The current outstanding balance of the DURF loan is $9.83 million of principal, plus approximately $854,000 of accrued interest at 4% per year. The sum of these figures is approximately $17.2 million. The sum of currently approved sales prices of the unsold units is approximately $16.9 million. If 17 units are converted to market, the sum of the listed sales prices of unsold units could be approximately $18.4 million. At present, senior loan interest is approximately $50,000 per month, and DURF loan interest is approximately $33,000 per month. Senior loan interest per month has been decreasing over time as units are sold, while DURF loan interest per month has been increasing over time as it accumulates. Staff's recommendation listed in the for action is that the board of directors approve the conversion of the 17 units to market rate. Really, the purpose of the for action is to gain a better understanding of the board's priorities in regards to this DURF loan, and then to take appropriate action that aligns with those priorities. Approving the borrower's request this time would prioritize maximizing the recovery of the DURF loan by enabling the converted units to be sold quicker at higher prices at the cost of maximizing the affordability. Taking no action on the borrower's request at this time would prioritize maximizing the affordability at the cost of maximizing recovery of the DURF loan. And we do have a representative from the developer here who is available for questions.
Thank you, Albert. First, let me ask board members if you have questions first now.
So, real quick, 140%. Can you give us just an idea of what that comes out to in terms of dollar amount for like a family of four, a family of two in the Honolulu area? That 140% AMI.
140%. We don't have any units priced at that currently.
Right, I'll note that although the AMI threshold was raised, prices are kept the same.
Yeah.
So it just allows buyers at up to 140% AMI.
What would that be for in terms of like income?
I'll have to pull that up.
Got it.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
I can pull that up.
Varies by household size, of course, but let's say.
Family of two or family of four.
Let's say a family of four, 140% AMI is. Well, family of two is about 156,000, family of four. About 194,000.
Thank you. And would you say the reason is mostly because of a parking stall that is causing these not to be sold at that price?
We can have the developer's representative speak more to this question if you like.
Why don't you come on up and, yeah, introduce yourself.
I'm Vincenzo Mola. I'm with Coastal Rum Properties. So. Sorry, your question?
You mentioned in the report that, there's lack of parking and that's one of the reasons. Is that the main reason why people are not able to?
I would say it's one of the bigger reasons. It was supposed to be a TOD project. Rail was supposed to buy originally.
And if it's market rate, there's still no parking stall.
Yeah, there was 78 units with parking and.
But if you convert it to market rate, would that include parking stall or it would not?
No, the units that have parking, there's only 78 stalls in the building.
Although it's already been sold.
Yeah. Or
So market would still have struggled to sell because it wouldn't be parking.
no, I think there's a demand for these units at market rate without the restrictions, mainly because there's a 10-year restriction. Yeah. It's a big deal for a young home buyer, right? Their family size could change. Also, threshold to buy a market rate unit with no restrictions. You can change out later, let's say 5 years down the line. I think for a lot of people, it just makes more sense buying a studio market rate rather than for. A lot of people see it as having handcuffs on.
Question, Marius?
More of an observation.
Yep.
Since the predominant unit type, 123 units out of 100 studios. That, as you said, limits a buyer to not having family expansion. So if they want to increase their family within the 10 years restricted, they are not going to be able to get the full amount of any appreciation of that unit.
1% a year.
So, Chair, I think my comment is that we have seen this in LA with HHFDC, HCDA units. We've seen it with HHFDC projects as well. The restrictions particularly when we have unit type is very small, we're going to make it hard to sell to.
Especially with the rising interest rates that we've had over the last couple of years. Everything's pretty expensive. Especially for someone that's looking to purchase in this price range. add restrictions onto the purchase. Cost and doubt.
Chair, I would observe that uh, the state's housing agencies are producing projects with larger units, 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom units. And those are much more friendly to families and support some sort of stability of unit owners, because they're likely to feel they have no choice but to try to sell in order to get a larger space.
Yes.
Thank you.
I have a question. How long have these units been offered for sale? When were they, when was the project completed and when were they first offered? You know
Well,
that?
originally the building was, majority of the building was sold out. And then, sorry,
Pre-sales or?
yeah. It was pre-sold up to, I wanna say 90%. There was a holdup. And that delayed the construction to start, supposed to start in 2017. And it started in 2019, which a lot of the buyers that were going to purchase, they dropped out, or I don't know if they meet the affordable restrictions anymore.
Yeah, that period occurred during COVID as well. But I think that's when a lot of buyers dropped out.
On the affordable units, is there for the sale of those units, is there a residency required?
Yes, sir.
So if the board was to take action today and to convert those 17 units to market, would there still be a residency required?
Once they're converted to market now.
So somebody from anywhere, an investor, could swoop in, buy them in bulk?
Yeah.
One of the things we've seen with units without parking is that people are much more willing to rent them than buy them. For example, the Nohona Holly project over here is rental. And when this project was first conceived, I think in 2015, a lot of other projects have come online since then. So Nohona Holly, Ililani, Equili Place. There's another large project coming up in Kakako, 1,000 units. And there's a lot more competition at this time. So we are seeing more demand for these units as rentals. We've had discussions in the past about converting some to rentals. There was always a question of how do we get repaid? And so one of the ways to possibly accommodate the market demand is allow it to be purchased by the market and then rented outside of our program.
So, go ahead, I'll.
No, sorry if
No,
you,
you go right ahead, Jason.
Albert, just because it got brought up in the testimony, did you guys reach out to Department of Education just to see what?
Yeah, with the marketing efforts on this project, we have, right now there's 20 units listed. This building's been around project's been around for 10 years. Pretty much every agent on this island does the project. I really don't think that the marketing for this is the issue. If you go to sell your house, list it on the MLS. If there's demand for your house, you get an offer. We used to just have one of each floor type, or one of each floor type listed on the MLS, but we've added more units to see if maybe they all look the same. Didn't have too much of an effect, but we've done marketing, we've sent out flyers to different zip codes. We've reached out to a couple of the different hospitals. If there's not a demand for the product, then regardless of how much marketing you do.
So there was conversation with the DOE, with IDO?
My brokerage sent out many emails with all the information on the project. But again, I really don't see the marketing as being the issue with the project. Because
I do know one of the problems, I mean, one of the issues for like, say, teacher recruitment and retention in Hawaii, for example, is because of the lack of affordable housing, right? Lack of workforce housing. That's one of the biggest reasons why many of them end up moving to the mainland. And I know, and if you take a look at what you mentioned with the income rate, that's about a typical family of four, family of two teachers, or maybe two police officers, two firefighters. They'll be able to afford to move into one of these units or some of these units.
you know, we had a fireman apply from Maui. We had an HHFDC unit over there. It burned down. Okay. He applied for our project, but was rejected because he said he was going to commute to Maui. He met all the applications. His home burned down in Maui. He could have easily commuted, like thousands of construction workers and other people do. We've had scenarios where, you know, buyers come in, but just something doesn't work out. You know, right now with the market, I think it could make more sense as affordable renters or rentals. We allowed a buyer to come in, purchase the units at a market rate or at market, and then keep the affordable rental restriction on those units. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, we don't want to leave 51 units vacant. Well, there's a huge need for housing in Hawaii. And
I agree there's a need for housing quality, but one of my concerns is what you just mentioned, that an out-of-state district could just purchase up all of these units. And then, you know, we do obviously need housing for local residents in Hawaii.
Well, I'm trying to ascertain, is the resistance in your opinion, is the resistance mostly based on the product itself or the affordability, the ability to qualify to finance the purchase? What's the number one point of resistance in this?
I'd say the resistance is the more we educate a buyer in the affordable program. Okay? A lot of the buyers, they come in with their parents, family member, and it's your first time purchasing a home or a property to the market. And you tell someone, hey, you gotta live in this unit for 10 years. Shared appreciation. If you move out, make more money, you gotta sell the unit, rent it out in those 10 years. You have to educate the buyer. The more you educate the buyer, sometimes they just go, well, I don't know if this is for me. And especially if I can put together, you know, a few thousand more to go after a market rate unit.
Well, it's pretty common that there's a distinction between a restricted and an unrestricted unit and buyer preferences that relate to each. Just like there would be with fee simple and leasehold, most people prefer a fee simple form of ownership. I'm gonna go there with this one. We've assisted other developers with for sale projects, and I know one just broke ground yesterday, Kool-Aid, with our DERF equity loan program, which does assist the developers, but the benefit ultimately accrues to the purchaser, to the buyers. Because they get it's a silent second. And it subsidizes the purchase price to make the purchase more attractive and affordable. We're trying to sell restricted units, affordable units. And my question is basically, why would we not consider implementing DERF or the equity loan for this particular project to move those 17 affordable units out? Or at least see if that's possible. So I'm putting it out there to staff and to you.
Chair, I just noticed mainly because of the limitations that we had $10 million for the program. And much of that has been committed. If the legislation to make the loan, make the program permanent or to extend it, past this session, we could look at using the program for this project.
Director. I'm sorry, did you want to?
No, I just wanted to clarify a point I had made that obviously sales prices can vary, especially the market units, but based on the currently listed sales prices, there is, regardless of what other programs we implement, there is not currently sufficient value of the unsold units to repay all of the senior and DERF principal and interest
Okay,
if we take no action.
so I mean, there's kind of two objectives here. One is to see that the DERF loan is ultimately repaid, but the other is to sell units that are earmarked for affordable sales. Right.
And just,
The two-track thing going here.
yeah, and if Chair, if I may just add to that,
Yes.
it's not just that they're sold as affordable, they're sold as affordable to people in Hawaii that need housing here.
Right, yes, that's why I inquired about the residency restriction. Director Mende?
Yeah, so for the units that you're requesting to convert to market, could you sell them if we put restrictions that they have to be low affordable housing and to Hawaii residents?
Yeah, I mean, if
If an investor came in and bought them all, they would still have to rent to the.
Yeah, that would be
population
completely fine. If we can sell them so that someone can rent them as affordable, that works great for us. It's a Hawaii resident and meets all the restrictions. That would be
Get that commitment.
Yeah, I mean, you write that in a sales contract or how do you? Yeah.
It's have to be a restricted covenant.
Yeah, right, right. I mean, as an investor, when I buy it, it's still, yeah.
Sorry, Director, to clarify. You're asking if they were market units sold with restrictions that if they were rented out, that it'd be rented to a Hawaii resident?
In the AMI that we already or whatever, I don't know.
well, they could be converted to affordable apartments. What happened? At the end of the day, if an investor did say they were converted to market rate with no restrictions. If buyer came in, purchased units, and then they were rented out, right? It's still providing housing. And in the area that we're in, it's mostly nurses, young professionals that work in Chinatown or Colorado, and it's still providing housing, which to me is the most important thing.
Let me ask you this question. How much price reduction, subsidy on price would it take to make these affordable units attractive enough to sell? What's your thought on? And I don't have a list of your pricing in front of me.
They're
Sorry.
pretty much all around $300,000.
The units are currently.
Yes. The affordable units.
I think a subsidy of 50,000 a unit would move these.
I mean, obviously it'd make it more attractive. Wouldn't help the loan very much, but it would make it more attractive, but it's still 51 units. And it'd still take a lot of time. I don't know if that would be the best solution.
Can I ask Vincenzo if you could speak more about the lending side of this? Like if there's been resistance from lenders?
Yeah, another reason why I'd like to get these units converted is to sell, get the units sold at market, do it a lot quicker with affordable. Building's still not 75% sold, which for lenders is an issue because it's 4 years old. And so even if say the price is 250,000, Bank of Hawaii won't lend on it. It's a big issue. So we need to sell more units in order to make sure this thing keeps going and quickly. Other than trying to draw it out, see what happens.
Yeah, no, I mean, I kind of understand because as a lender, you know, if I'm gonna take that as my collateral, I want to make sure I can sell it. If nobody's buying it. I mean, get on loan.
It is a problem with the lending.
I don't have a question. I think the question you asked and about the equity program.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering if there is the possibility of that happening. We don't know yet what the legislation will do. But if that is in fact passed, then that's another opportunity for the board to take a crack at keeping these units affordable. Rather than releasing it now, like we might in 2 months or 3 months have the resources to say, let's take another shot at recrafting the affordability criteria. See if we can better target the affordability.
Yeah,
That's
and,
kind of where I'm thinking right now.
yeah, and, I don't think we've depleted, all of the funding under that program. I don't know what the current balance is, but somebody who's,
I think it's about 2 million, but there is.
other applicants.
Right,
But, you know, I still see the issue with maybe there's not buyers for this product right now. The affordable, it's not like one unit, it's the one units. So even if the resources are available, it's still gonna take a long time. And buildings finished, completed 4 years. It's been in the making for 10 years. This is not something that we wanna keep doing sales for the next 3 years. Get it done. It was already sold out in 2017 and it was held up. Various things, but we'd like to see it go forward. Lending, it's super important to sell up to 75% 17 units. And thing's been dragging on for a long time. Just want to see it provide housing.
Else have questions?
I'm gonna vote no.
I think with, on this one, I'm gonna take a roll. Okay.
And then just, I think we look at another solution down, let's see where it goes.
If somebody wants to, make a motion to amend the for action in some fashion, that can be put out to the board.
Could I ask a question? Board's experience. Just looking at this situation. If we don't make an action for something, you know, I know we raised the AMI or the AMI. So people can make more money, but if you make more money. Be allowed to purchase an affordable unit. If you look at the restrictions and then you go, hey, wait, I can buy a market rate unit. Well, why wouldn't they do that? So I'm wondering if we don't make an action, it's what's gonna change? Everyone on the island knows about this development. You can see the units are for sale. Been very helpful with trying to help buyers any way we can on the development side or the broker side. And if nothing, if there's no change, version or any other thing, what do you guys see happening? That's gonna change.
Director Evans.
I believe we have seen this situation before. And we have approved moving, allowing the developer to sell what was previously characterized as affordable units as market units in order to get them occupied. And I think the value of waiting for some kind of something to change, particularly since I don't think interest rates are gonna come down. And that's probably the factor in this as well, because somebody would be locking in a high interest rate that they couldn't get out without sacrificing shared appreciation. So I'm in favor of allowing the conversion.
Well, I think I'll make a motion, something along, like an amended,
You wanna
make an amendment. That we
propose an amendment to the
we
board.
bring this back at the next board meeting with a discussion about a DERF or some type of. Go in that direction.
What would be the possibility, let me ask this question, what would be the possibility of removing the buyback and shared appreciation, but keeping the AMI up to 140%?
I believe we have done that before. Where
You have,
I believe we, not me personally, I believe we have done it before. Where we've. Units that haven't sold. Have been allowed to be sold without restrictions, but still to income qualified buyers.
I recall.
you recall that?
Yeah.
Okay. Been around longer than.
That's why the situation though.
If we didn't have a 10-year restriction, in these units,
But they were still limited to if 140 AMI
For the initial sale, yeah.
and Hawaii residents.
our residents, they'd meet all the. They'd have to meet all the requirements, but we didn't have the 10-year restriction. That's huge for studio unit. Without parking as well.
Rather explore that.
We're supposed to have the rail down the street.
Yeah, but after
That's a big deal.
10 more years.
Chair, if that's the direction the board would like to go, I would suggest we defer action so that we have time
Back at the next meeting.
come back with the proposal to the board.
Well,
Sounds good.
we just. Get a quick read of the board if that's the direction you want. To pursue.
We could get, by doing that, we could get all the units sold.
Maybe as to what Director Bradshaw was saying, it would be nice to hear from the staff. What affirmative steps were taken as follow-up from the previous meeting that DOE actually contacted? Were teachers actually engaged on this question? Were certain targeted segments of highly desired professions actually contacted and examined? And then also, what are the other affordability adjustments that could be made, such as going from 10 years to 5 years? That could help move these units. That would be helpful to hear from the staff.
Well, it seems like the sentiment of the board is to allow for sufficient time to. Explore those options and ideas, so I guess what I would need, since there was a motion to approve. That I was seconded.
Withdraw.
Just a motion to withdraw. Okay, so at this time I will ask the board. If anyone would like to make a motion to withdraw the original. Motion,
Can we just withdraw our first and second?
that's what we're doing.
So,
I think so.
I would, yeah.
Okay, we have a motion to withdraw the original motion. Is there a second? Second. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, so. What that means essentially is we will defer. Have this placed on the May board meeting agenda, second Thursday of May. Between now and then, have staff and hopefully yourself engage and then explore some options that we can reconsider in May.
We'll work with the developer in getting that info. Is there any other specific info the board would like to see?
I think as it was mentioned, we wanna see more about your marketing efforts
Can I say,
and targeted efforts to certain professional groups.
I've talked to a few teachers that have been purchasing. With interest rates and with teacher salary. 300,000 is still pretty high. The monthly payments for them probably exceed what they're making, and and if they are looking at purchasing, really they're coming in with their parent or a family member that's gonna give them good funds. We can take up to 35%.
I think the request from the board was not anecdotal engagement with teachers. It was with the Hawaii Department of Education about teachers and the interest of them being able to engage in the project.
I understand. I'm just making a note that
Thank you.
thank you very much.
Being here, and so I do need to take a vote on the amended motion. So all those in favor of deferring this agenda item to the May board, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that motion carries. So we will see you next month.
All right, see you guys then. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's move on to item 4 of the agenda. This is report by the executive director. Dean, floor is yours.
First call up to the IROS, on legislative activities.
Good morning, Chair Mackler, Vice Chair Ryman. I'm Cynthia Nyros, Legislative Coordinator for HHFDC. Before we jump into my report, I wanted to mention that at 1 o'clock today, the Senate Housing Committee is going to hear Governor's Message 736. This is submitting for consideration and confirmation to the Board of Directors of HHFDC, gubernatorial nominee Grant Chun for a term to expire June 30, 2029. I did our testimony support and we wish him the best of luck. Okay, so for this session, we have submitted 230 total testimonies. And last year it was 167 testimonies, so it's an increase this year. Thanks to our executive director for powering through them all. So conference committee hearings will begin on Monday for the next 2 weeks, which means we're down to 25 bills from the 108 we were tracking earlier. So here are some highlights. Senate Bill 79 streamlines the historic review process for affordable housing projects by requiring DLNR to make a determination on the project's effect on various factors. Senate Bill 1229, which our executive director mentioned earlier, this is with our dark equity pilot program. This was established in statute in 2023, and it allows us to purchase equity in units in certain for sale housing developments, which brings down the price to the eligible buyer, what he or she pays. So we are requesting some changes to that. Senate Bill 71 creates a tier 2 sub-account under the rental housing revolving fund so that we are able to finance projects outside the tier 1 first priority without the need for legislation. This will allow us to provide housing for the missing middle demographic. And in addition to that, we also had 11 resolutions that we were tracking. So some highlights for you. House Concurrent Resolution 157, Senate Concurrent Resolution 124 established the Task Force for Speed, which stands for Simplifying Permitting for Enhanced Economic Development, to identify actions needed to expedite, facilitate, and coordinate state and intergovernmental permit processes. HHFDC is a member of this task force. Both resolutions are alive, as well as the bill, House Bill 426. There's also Senate Concurrent Reso 60, which urges HHFDC to develop a plan to produce sufficient housing to meet the state's demands. So that's all I have for you.
Thank you, Cynthia. Some other items I will note, last month, we had a series of meetings with there were two developers, Speaker Nakamura convened the meetings. So we had one set of meetings with developers who are awarded financing to get their thoughts on how the status of their projects, how we could improve the program. And at a second meeting with other interested developers asking the same question, basically, how much funding could they use? Would they be interested in applying if funding were appropriated? And how we can improve the program. A very productive meeting. And at least we're just hopeful that funds are appropriated because we've heard from developers that there is demand out there. They can get projects ready, but they are not going to focus on a tier 2 project unless they know that funding is available, which makes sense. You're not going to plan for something when there's no funds available. So we are just waiting now to see how the budget shakes out and how much funding is appropriate for tier 2 projects. For Otowell, when we read Civil Beat this morning, there was an article about water in West Kona. And it mentions Otowell, which was the well that HHFDC has been working with NOHA on to provide water for Kamakana villages. You might recall that in 2022, we've been working on Otowell since 2016 with NOHA. 2022, the Water Commission did approve the well construction permit. When it did so with conditions that made the well development infeasible. So since 2022, we and NOHA have been working with the community, trying to address their concerns. We thought we had a pathway. It was on the April 1st Water Commission agenda, action to amend the conditions, but there were some late concerns, so it was pulled from the agenda. Our understanding of the Water Commission is that they would like to pursue an adaptive management plan for the West Maui area. We are hopeful that will provide a pathway to settle, this issue about groundwater development in West Hawaii. So we have clarity on whether or not we can develop, any water resources, because that's the only impediment to Kamakana villages at this point. We have the land use entitlements, we have a developer in place to develop the project, but we just don't have potable water. Also want to mention that for Haleola EA, that we came to the board for an amendment of the lease. Some of you might recall last year executed a lease with Maui County whereby they were to take possession of Hagai Institute or Haleola EA starting May 30th. The county has expressed some concerns with the properties currently being used to house survivors. It's part of a state program, the Hawaii Interim Housing Program. We've been talking to the county about the timing of when the transition will occur. But in any case, it will require a lease amendment. So that'll be coming to you next month. And lastly, just want to talk briefly about some initiatives that I've been talking to staff about for this upcoming year. So we need to be flexible and we have to adjust as circumstances change. So there's several here, and there'll probably be for information about these to give you more information as I and staff work through how we're actually going to approach these initiatives. One is modifying our calendar timeline for making awards. Because the requests for financing are getting so large now, we need to sync up with the legislative cycle so that legislators know how much funding we need in a given year. So it'd be great where at the start, or at least, in January, February, we could tell the legislature, hey, we'd like to award $300 million worth of our housing revolving fund. For us to do that, because right now our award calendar isn't in sync with the legislature. It's going to be probably about a 2-year process to move the calendar back. we're looking at this year, for the developers listed, we're looking at this year to have the award application made available maybe around October instead of December. Right now, we make it available in December. Applications are due in February. The ones are made in, May, June, July. We're looking at moving it up about 2 months this year, maybe another month or two next year. But we can't do it all in 1 year because that just wouldn't work. There are other timelines you have to be cognizant of also. That's up, so we'll provide an update on that as we work through the timeline. Something else that we might be looking at is acquisitions of land. There's in the current version of the budget, or there were funds put in appropriated for acquiring lands for affordable housing, so we might be taking a more active role in that regard. I've tasked staff to look at alternative financing models for affordable housing. With the large increase in housing revolving fund per unit, we need to look at other models. There are other means to provide housing beyond LIHTC, whether it's a rent-to-own model or perhaps the state partnering with developers on a fee basis to have them build state housing. To see, are there other alternatives out there? One other initiative is, it actually ties in more with the discussion we've just been having for 82Y model, is looking at the affordability restrictions for our for sale projects. There's been a lot of discussion over the years about creating an inventory of affordable housing, a long-term inventory of affordable housing for Hawaii residents. Currently, we have a 10-year buyback and the shared appreciation restrictions. So units are affordable for 10 years. After that, as you know, they can be sold at market rate. So we've been looking at, instead of having that model where after 10 years, the unit is no longer affordable, is it possible that we could do away with those restrictions, instead require units to be basically, I wouldn't say perpetually affordable, because we're not looking at keeping them the same price forever. We'll allow them to ride the same price as the overall real estate market. So if the real estate market increases by 15% over 4 years, a buyer could sell their unit at a 15% increase. That would be a restriction that runs with the unit for the life of the building. So the unit always stays relatively affordable in comparison to market units. So I'd like to explore that, talk to some developers to see if they feel that would be a benefit or not in terms of their ability to sell units. But I think the long-term goal is to create an inventory of homes that are long-term affordable for residents. And last thing I'll note is we're looking at conducting a demand survey for state employees. There's quite a few number of bills this year that talk about the need for housing by state employees. DOE recently did a housing demand survey this year. So we're looking at basically taking that same survey that DOE did and doing it statewide for all employees.
That's really.
It wasn't, yeah. So that's all I have.
Questions for Dean?
Comment, Chair?
Absolutely.
I'd like to thank you for looking at the affordable restrictions models we've been using. I think HCDA will also be looking at that because they're running into some of the same concerns and problems. Sell on a reasonable time. So I appreciate that you are starting to have that discussion. Thank you, Chair.
I just want to make a comment, observation. I want to thank you and Cynthia for working through the legislative session. That just seems like an onerous task. I'm glad that the bills are down to 25 or so, but I was reading your report for this board meeting. I took the liberty of counting how many times you were present to testify at a legislative hearing. It's over 40 in a month. Should ask for an office over there or a studio unit perhaps or something. Seems like you're living over there for a month. But that's very much appreciated because being present does help. Thank you for that. I know that's a strain. Thank you. Anybody else have any comments? Okay, well, thank you then. That concludes the report from the executive director. Last item is there a motion to adjourn? And we have a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.